Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star Part 235 based on novel. So let's start. Limpid water on the lake was flowing, and fog permeated above it. Luo Fong sat beside the lake with his legs crossed with a 6-foot-tall golden-horned beast. Perfect limit. Remote ocean reached the level before, but when he became a boundless remote ocean. The new remote ocean body only has a life gene level of 1000 times. Finally, the golden-horned beast body has reached that level. Luo Fong smiled and waited for the sharp change. Once the life gene hit the perfect level, the body would experience a sharp change. Last time, the universe origin law arrived and led Luo Fong to a mysterious space, after which remote ocean body became 55,000 miles tall. What? Luo Fong frowned. 1 second, 2 seconds. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. No change. Why is there no change at all? Luo Fong was dazed. His golden-horned beast had reached the perfect gene level, yet nothing had happened. There wasn't any change to his godly body, neither was his mind led to the mysterious place. Luo Fong stood up. Could it be because? His eyes went wide, and his face fell. Because, he realized. It is another universe here. Instead of the original universe. Luo Fong knew that he was in a different universe, but the merge laws gold, wood, water, fire, ground, wind, light, lightning, time and space were all the same as those in the original universe. The law techniques were also similar. Universe level, domain level, and sector lords were the same in the primal universe as in the original universe. The original universe was the largest universe. Billions of races resided within it. The primal universe and the universe of the Space Beast Alliance, meanwhile, were much smaller. However, the laws and the cultivation of great beings were the same here. Different universes only had differences in time flow and environment. Luo Fong had assumed that once he reached perfect life gene level again, the golden-horned beast would evolve again, and he might enter the mysterious space in the universe again. I was wrong, he concluded. There are significant differences between the universes. There is no change at all in the universe of the Space Beast Alliance after reaching perfect life gene level. Luo Fong shook his head. What should I do? With each passing moment, he grew more and more upset. Although the golden-horned beast had reached the perfect life gene level and quality-wise, he had reached the basic requirement for performing I Am the Universe, he still didn't have enough quantity. A godly body that was more than 55,000 miles tall could only perform that 10 times. The golden-horned beast was only 600 miles, almost 1/100th of 55,000 miles. If the golden-horned beast body tried to perform I Am the Universe, his godly body might be completely consumed before he could even truly attempt it. I can't use the inherited technique I Am the Universe to defeat the ancestor body. Luo Fong frowned. So what should I do? This put Luo Fong in a quandary. His godly body was too small to perform the inherited technique. His only option was to create one. But how was he supposed to create Universe Master level ultimate techniques with nothing but his law comprehension and beast god conception level? It sounded ridiculous. What should I do? Luo Fong kept thinking, but no answer came to mind. He was not even a universe knight. How was he supposed to create Universe Master level ultimate techniques? The idea of becoming a Universe Supreme Master? Ridiculous. Inside the vast beast god sector. At the peak of one of the mountains of a long mountain range sat Ancestor in a white cape. Beside him was an elderly being with transparent horns and wearing a cyan cape. Sitting Mountain Guest, it seems that your disciple has run into trouble, Ancestor said with a smile. Don't worry, said Sitting Mountain Guest as he looked out into the distance. Ancestor and Sitting Mountain Guest had put their bodies in the beast god sector. After all, it was the universe under Ancestor's control, just as the primal universe was under Primal Chaos City Leader's control. Primal Chaos City Leader was invincible in the primal universe, and in this universe, a body of Ancestor could be invincible with the help of energy from the universe origin. When someone became a Universe Supreme Master, he was able to make a body randomly. As such, Sitting Mountain Guest wouldn't be trapped in this universe, as he could randomly make a body. "You're impressive," Ancestor exclaimed. "Your second disciple's life gene level reached almost 10,000 times with your help, and your third disciple has reached the perfect life gene level. You're much better at cultivating disciples than me, especially when it comes to improving life gene level." Sitting Mountain Guest shook his head and smiled. "It's against the universe operation law, and there's a huge price to pay. I'm only able to cultivate 2 disciples." Ancestor nodded. They were unrivaled in the universe. Amplification and life gene level meant nothing to them, as they were perfect. Otherwise, they wouldn't be called Universe Supreme Masters. Everyone who reaches the perfect life gene level can be bestowed a gift from the universe origin, Ancestor exclaimed. After his godly body reaches the perfect level, his mind can be bestowed with an all-powerful inherited technique. "Unfortunately for your disciple, this is my universe." Ancestor glanced at Sitting Mountain Guest and continued. "My universe is far inferior to the original universe. I can't bestow on him an inherited technique or help his godly body evolve." He sipped at some wine made from dew. Without an evolved godly body, his godly body is not able to perform the most powerful inherited technique even if is bestowed one. Besides, he wasn't even bestowed with the inherited technique. I might have actually lost the bet if he were in the original universe. But in my universe, I can control all the factors, and the only thing your disciple can rely on is the beast god sector. "You sound quite confident," Sitting Mountain Guest said as he sipped the wine. "The wine is good. Could you give me a few bottles later? I made the wine by devoting lots of energy and time by setting numerous special environments." Ancestor looked at Sitting Mountain Guest and smiled. "Regardless, you're going to lose a pinnacle true treasure to me. Some wine is the least I can do." Sitting Mountain Guest shook his head. "Remember, old beast god. 100,000 eras. It's been less than a century. Don't be too cocky." "So, you're confident," said Ancestor continued. "Do you think your disciple can become a Universe Supreme Master within 100,000 eras? Or do you think he can create Universe Master level ultimate techniques as an undying fighter? Or do you think he can create Universe Supreme Master level techniques as a Universe Knight?" According to the bet, once Luo Fong became a Universe Knight, Ancestor Body could use the ultimate techniques of Universe Masters. The ultimate technique Ancestor Body would use was definitely one of the best among the ultimate techniques used by Universe Masters. Only Universe Supreme Master level techniques could defeat that. "The only thing I can tell you," Sitting Mountain Guest said, "is that my disciple is likely to succeed. Of course, if he fails, that only demonstrates that he's not strong enough." "Likely? What a joke." Ancestor still refused to believe it. 100,000 eras equate to only 100,000 years in the original universe, said Sitting Mountain Guest. "Just wait and see. Don't let anyone in during these years. I don't want anyone to disturb him." "Rest assured, I won't disturb him," Ancestor said. "Where's the wine?" asked Sitting Mountain Guest. Ancestor waved his hands, and exquisite wine bottles showed up and floated in the sky. "This is half the wine I have," Ancestor said. "I'll leave now," said Sitting Mountain Guest, and he took all the wine, gazed for a moment at Luo Fong who was still contemplating, and disappeared. "Likely?" Ancestor mumbled, looking down. "Sitting Mountain Guest says his disciple is likely to succeed. It is ridiculous if he thinks his disciple can become a Universe Supreme Master. That means he believes that his disciple can create Universe Master ultimate techniques as an undying fighter. Humph. I will have witnessed something truly remarkable if Luo Fong succeeds. If he doesn't, I'll have a pinnacle true treasure." Ancestor smiled, then disappeared also. Luo Fong sat beside the lake for 9 days. He even pondered what his master Sitting Mountain Guest and that space beast Ancestor were thinking about. However, he couldn't come up with anything. Both Ancestor and Sitting Mountain Guest are Universe Supreme Masters. Their power and horizons are at the top of the universe. Ancestor doesn't believe that I can do it. But if Master Sitting Mountain Guest made the bet, he must believe that I'll be able to make it, at least in 1 billion years. Luo Fong considered this. There's a reason he has me in Beast God sector, Luo Fong muttered. I need to explore the Beast God sector. Luo Fong understood it. The first place he needed to explore was the Beast God sector. Plenty of great beings came to the Beast God sector, he thought. After all, those techniques were left by the Universe Masters and Universe Knights from the Space Beast Alliance. However, those great beings weren't able to create ultimate techniques for Universe Masters as Undying. Ancestor would only have made the bet if someone succeeded. Luo Fong nodded. He extrapolated from that the Beast God sector was far from enough. Beast God sector is the first asset I need to rely on. The second is some of my secrets. And, last but not least, time. Otherwise, Master Sitting Mountain Guest wouldn't have specified a time frame of 100,000 eras. 100,000 eras equated to 1 billion years. It was a very long time. Luo Fong knew that if he wanted to succeed, he needed to start from the Beast God sector. He was aware that since Teacher Sitting Mountain Guest had paid a hefty price for him to enter this place, there must be something very beneficial for him in this Beast God sector. Therefore, Luo Fong started looking around the Beast God sector again, this time doing so very conscientiously and meticulously. Firstly, on one of the vast plains, he found some technique sculptures where he acquired 2 types of amplification techniques. One was a soul amplification technique known as 9-peak lock. When mastered to perfection, it could bring about a soul amplification of 99.99, which could basically be considered 100 times. The other was a godly body amplification technique called Golden Beast God. When mastered to perfection, the amplification could reach 100 times. Initially, Luo Fong thought it would be very difficult for him to master these techniques. He did not expect to be able to master Golden Beast God from beginning to the end without faltering. It only took him 3 days to master the technique to perfection, whether it was his Mosha body, original Earthling body, remote ocean body, or golden horned beast body. All of these could put this godly body amplification technique to good use. 9-peak lock was about mastering the ultimate control of blurring godly power. It had extremely high requirements of the will and consciousness. However, Luo Fong's will and consciousness were already at a Universe Overlord standard. As Universe Overlords were almost perfect in terms of soul amplification, it would be a piece of cake for Luo Fong to master this technique. Within just 1 month, he mastered 9-peak lock to perfection. My blurred godly power, my will, and my consciousness are all of Universe Overlord standard, so mastering this technique was a breeze, Luo Fong said to himself. This was how capability played a part in determining the level of difficulty of mastering techniques. Out of thousands of Undying Emperors, it was unlikely that even one could have mastered 9-peak lock to pristine perfection. Mastering Golden Beast God took Luo Fong less than a month to master. Thereafter, he continued to look around the entire Beast God sector. In the Beast God sector, there were 64 Beast God sculptures. There were 8 natural Beast Gods, each of which had 8 sculptures. There were tens of thousands of secret techniques, 36 ultimate techniques of Universe Masters, 123 pinnacle techniques of Universe Masters, over 3,000 ultimate techniques of Universe Knights, and tens of thousands of pinnacle techniques of Universe Knights. There was also a large volume of informal lore engravings. These informal secret techniques were mostly incomprehensible, only the thickest and thinnest engravings could be somewhat understood. After researching these techniques for over half a year, Luo Fong came to one of the Golden Beast God sculptures. Raising his head, he scrutinized the sculpture. These techniques are useless to me, he concluded. These were created by other great beings. Even if I were to learn them, they would still be better suited to others. In my hands, the powers will be much weaker. Luo Fong gazed at the Beast God sculpture. Many of the techniques I have come across mention that one must be able to comprehend these Beast God sculptures to gain understanding. Even Universe Masters are trying to comprehend these Beast God sculptures. In the entirety of the Beast God sector, the most precious elements are these 64 Beast God sculptures. Luo Fong studied on. In the Beast God sector, at the apex of one of its mountains, Ancestor stood in a casual manner, overlooking the vast forest afar. His eyes came to rest on Luo Fong, who stood before the Golden Beast God sculpture. You have actually stood before that golden beast sculpture for more than 3 years, whispered Ancestor. Seems like you have come to realize that these beast god sculptures are my sector's most precious possessions. That's right. All the extraordinary geniuses and superior beings that qualified to be part of my Space Beast Alliance realize that these beast god sculptures are the key. There were many who could realize this. However, those who were able to figure out the secret technique, especially to figure out the ultimate secret technique of a universe master level, were extremely few. Also, those who were able to understand the ultimate secret technique of a universe master level were all universe masters. Ancestor was carefree and at ease. He knew that there were many techniques in the beast god sector that seemed precious but were actually worth little. The 64 beast god sculptures were the true treasures that were priceless. Luo Fong stood before the 8 sculptures of the golden beast god. Time spent on each sculpture varied. For the shorter periods, he could spend a year or more gaining understanding. For the longer periods, he could spend up to 8 years gaining understanding. As for the Thunder Beast God, Light Beast God, and the other Beast God sculptures, he spent a much shorter time trying to comprehend them, as ultimately, he would not be traversing along the Beast God path. The 64 Beast God sculptures took him a total of 52 years to study. The more I look, the more I feel that these are perfect. The Golden Beast God and the 8 sculptures. Luo Fong felt that, after looking at these 8 sculptures of the Golden Beast God, he could feel its anger, happiness, tranquility, rage, insanity. All kinds of situations were made familiar to him. Closing his eyes, he felt as though he was looking at the real Golden Beast God. The lack of one sculpture would render everything incomplete, Luo Fong decided with a slight nod. For any great being, just by looking at the 64 sculptures, there would be a feeling of merging as one with the sculptures. The secret engravings representing the universe path on these 64 sculptures made him feel as though he were becoming one with the sculptures. They could constitute a complete set of super techniques. They evoked a feeling of singularity. Every great being that has come to the Beast God sector of the Space Beast Alliance could have been able to feel this, mused Luo Fong. But no one can really figure out the ultimate secret technique. Because out of the most powerful 36 types of universe ultimate techniques, some must be acquired through understanding the Golden Beast God, some must be acquired through understanding the Thunder Beast God, and occasionally, one must be able to gain the understanding of 2 beast gods put together. Judging from the power these different technique engravings left behind, they all seemed to match each other in strength. Obviously, the level of each technique would be similar. By combining all 8 beast god sculptures to create a super-secret technique, this technique should outmatch all the others. After acquiring 2 amplification techniques and studying the beast god sculptures, Luo Fong started to study himself as the subject. I must succeed, he said. First, I have to depend on the beast god sector. Second, I must be different from the rest. Third, I need time. I have studied and now understand the beast god sector thoroughly. As for me, to be considered truly different from the rest, I need something that even generations of supreme beings of the Space Beast Alliance apart from Ancestor would not be able to compare to. That could be the 9-volume manual, Star Tower, the talent technique I Am the Universe, or my endless remote ocean. Luo Fong analyzed his options. The 9-volume manual was one of a kind in the universe. Star Tower was one of the supreme true treasures of the universe. Other than Ancestor, the chances of other beings in the Space Beast Alliance possessing supreme true treasures were very low. Or at least, there were none that Luo Fong knew of. The talent technique I Am the Universe had been bestowed by the universe for reaching the perfect life gene level. It could be assumed that many special life forms who were powerful and unique might only have reached a life gene level of thousands of times. Those close to tens of thousands of times were a rare sight. Let alone those who had attained perfection. Space beasts were not special life forms. Unless they possessed techniques such as the 9-volume manual, they would never be able to make it this far. The endless remote ocean represented limitless godly power. What a pity that he was in another universe. There was no way he could absorb godly power from the endless remote ocean. In the primal universe, Luo Fong's original earthling body headed first to Star Tower to study the secret engravings in the sculptures on the countless stars and sky pillars. Unfortunately, These were more profound than the ultimate techniques of the universe masters on the beast god sector. He could not figure them out. Then he placed the contents of the 9-volume manual under scrutiny and studied them with detail. This was a technique solely used for enhancing one's life gene level. In terms of depth, it was comparable to the secret engravings on the Star Tower, which was far more profound than the ultimate techniques of universe masters. Similarly, he could not comprehend the profound knowledge, so he could only train in a methodical manner. As for putting his talent technique I Am the Universe to use, Luo Fong and his other bodies were unable to use it unless enemies entered his god country. Only then would the endless remote ocean within his god country enable him to use I Am the Universe. Talent technique I Am the Universe. At that moment, the endless godly power of ocean water went ablaze to produce limitless energy. In the sky above the endless remote ocean, a huge oval-shaped sphere with a diameter of tens of billions of miles appeared. It was a miniature universe. A universe, said Luo Fong. A miniature universe. Luo Fong used his consciousness to enter the miniature universe. He was filled with overwhelming excitement. Since the day he first acquired I Am the Universe, this was his first time using it. According to what was imprinted on his consciousness, when this incomparably magical talent technique was activated, the rate at which his godly power was used up would be alarming. It was almost as though once activated, the godly power of a golden horned beast's godly body would be completely consumed. Luckily for him, his endless remote ocean was extensive enough. A miniature universe. This vast universe, with a diameter of tens of billions of miles, could contain anything. Within it was only vast nothingness. There was a subtle, chaotic airflow. This miniature universe was none other than Luo Fong himself. How magical, he said in wonder. Absolute control. Absolute control. The moment he transformed into this miniature universe, Luo Fong grasped the full understanding of his powers. He could divide out part of his godly body in this universe to fight his enemies, and in his own miniature universe, he could transfer the oppression from the outside into the miniature universe. His power would then be greatly increased while his opponent faced stronger suppression. This was merely one of the attached abilities. The strongest one was Explosion of Universe. Luo Fong could not help marveling. He only needed one thought to activate the Explosion of Universe, during which his miniature universe would collapse. The magnitude of this power was unbelievable. What a transcendental technique, said Luo Fong. To think that I possess such a powerful talent technique and can transform into a miniature universe. Luo Fong could not help but marvel. At the same time, his consciousness had started to study his miniature universe attentively. On the thin membrane encompassing the huge oval-shaped sphere, boundless energy took the form of numerous law threads interlacing with one another to form an enormous picture of law engravings that was continuously undergoing transformation into a chaotic airflow. This chaotic airflow then circulated around the enormous picture of secret engravings and coagulated to form the membrane around the miniature universe. The remainder of the airflow would then waft off into the atmosphere and eventually diminish. The enormous picture of law engravings. This was the basis for how Luo Fong could display his talent technique. But he was completely clueless, as this was the first time he had laid eyes on this picture of law engravings. The picture of the law engravings transformed into an oval-shaped sphere formed by millions upon millions of law threads interlacing with one another. It was inconceivably complicated, forming the law of revolution of this miniature universe. And the amount of godly power that Luo Fong used would be used to supply this entire miniature universe with energy. Technically speaking, it was not a real universe. In a real universe, energy was recyclable and should be inexhaustible. But Luo Fong's energy was continuously used up. Obviously, this picture of law engravings was an extremely simplified version of the primal picture of engravings, which was the truest law of revolution of the primal universe. Yet, even so, it was impressive enough to render Luo Fong tongue-tied. It's too. But Luo Fong couldn't complete his thought. He was completely taken aback by this picture of engravings. Its beauty was astounding. More astounding than any other ultimate techniques, it was even more beautiful than the secret engravings on the numerous beast god sculptures. Luo Fong was filled with amazement. He thoroughly appreciated the intricate and delicate engraving picture of the miniature universe. Time passed, and the godly power consumed in 90 seconds was equal to that of the remote ocean body at the height of more than 55,000 miles. However, remote ocean body could withstand it easily. This. Luo Fong had made the shocking discovery that the engraving picture could be disintegrated, and small engraving pictures showed up after the disintegration. Each of the small engraving pictures was an engraving picture on the 64 beast god sculptures. After the disintegration, 92 small beast god engraving pictures showed up, and many of them were identical. However, they all came from the engraving pictures of the 64 beast god sculptures. The 92 beast god engraving pictures were like components, making up a single mechanism after being combined. There were countless threads connecting all the pictures, and the connections were natural and perfect, comprising a miniature universe. How could this be? Wondered Luo Fong. 64 engraving pictures combined to form an engraving picture of a miniature universe. Luo Fong suddenly saw a new door open. If he didn't know those 64 beast god engraving pictures, the miniature universe engraving picture would be too intricate for him to understand. However, now that he was viewing it as beast god engraving pictures, they were much easier to understand. It was just a combination of 64 engraving pictures. Incredible, said Luo Fong. He was mesmerized. He had not realized, until now, that there was another way to understand the incredible inherited technique. Inside the original universe flew an ordinary spaceship. This disciple of mine has a remote ocean body that has reached the perfect life gene level even before he became undying, sitting mountain guest whispered in the spaceship. He must have been bestowed a supreme inherited technique. As for supreme inherited techniques, they hold the top spot among all the techniques in the universe, and all of them are perfect. As for those 64 engraving pictures, they're the perfect embodiment of 8 inborn beast gods. The 8 beast gods stand for 8 merge laws. Universe operation laws can be classified into gold, wood, water, fire, ground, light, wind, lightning, time, and space. However, they can also be classified into 8 merge laws. Sitting mountain guest smiled. He had already reached the pinnacle level possible in the universe, and he could see everything clearly. All of the highest level techniques can be disintegrated into 64 engraving pictures. As for those that are inferior, they can't even rival one beast god engraving picture. They do not qualify. Luo Fong is examining those 64 beast god sculptures, and he knows those 64 engraving pictures. Once he performs his supreme inherited technique, he'll realize the connection between the supreme inherited techniques and the 64 engraving pictures. He'll start with the engraving pictures and create techniques using those pictures. He doesn't even need to understand those engraving pictures, sitting mountain guest thought. All he needs to do is remember those engraving pictures and their structures, and with the engraving picture he got from his own supreme inherited technique, he can totally try that. Once he succeeds, it will be possible for him to create a simplified technique of a supreme inherited technique. And if he can actually succeed, it means he's a high achiever in engraving pictures. Using those 64 engraving pictures as elements, there were great beings who did that before the Grand Nirvana. If Luo Fong can also accomplish something in that field, and together with his ordinary law training, he'll make many more improvements. Plus, he is able to better see the origin of the universe. Sitting mountain guest was making a huge bet. No one had succeeded on the path of engraving pictures since the original universe came into being. The main reason for this was that only a few were qualified to see the 64 engraving pictures. Even those who saw them couldn't understand them. However, before the Grand Nirvana, some great beings had succeeded, which meant that the method was possible. Different methods supported each other, but they all led to the same end, the origin mystery of the universe. You've come so far after only 100,000 years, sitting mountain guest thought. And you survived the life or death inheritance. Now, I'll give you 1 billion years. Let's see whether you can make some accomplishments on engraving pictures. Engraving pictures training had always been a secret. After all, the time of the Grand Nirvana was immeasurable, and even before the Grand Nirvana, only a few practiced engraving pictures. Obsessed. Luo Fong was completely obsessed. He hadn't expected those 64 engraving pictures to form such an incredible technique. He had always thought that I Am the Universe was so powerful and intricate that he couldn't possibly understand it. However, he could now. It was the combination of those 64 engraving pictures, and some of them overlapped with each other, leading to 92 engraving pictures. Does that mean the combination of those 64 engraving pictures result in significant power? Luo Fong immediately started to study it. At the peak of one of the mountains in the Beast God sector, Ancestor appeared and looked down. Weird. Why does he keep drawing engraving pictures? Ancestor watched from a distance and saw one engraving picture after another forming around Luo Fong, who sat in front of a gold Beast God sculpture with his legs crossed. He's been drawing the engraving pictures for 10,000 years, said Ancestor, thoroughly confused. Luo Fong found the combination of the engraving pictures to be unpredictable and mysterious after studying all of them. If he made a mistake, the power would tumble. However, Luo Fong was randomly combining different engraving pictures based on the engraving picture of I Am the Universe, and he had created dozens of techniques. Most, however, were weak, and only one of them could rival an undying technique. It came close to the third move of star map. This thrilled Luo Fong. He now understood that the engraving pictures were a new path, and it might be his only chance to defeat Ancestor Body within a period of 100,000 eras. Luo Fong started with a random drawing. There were billions of ways for law threads to be combined for I Am the Universe. He started by randomly copying and simulating without rules, but after 10,000 years of trying, he had successfully created some weak techniques. He also understood the differences between different combinations. Based on his extensive practice, he extrapolated the possibilities, and from the possibilities, he extrapolated his theories. In the first 100,000 years, Luo Fong worked by trial and error. He only created 2 techniques that could rival the third move of star map. He did, however, discover some patterns after all those trials. Luo Fong decided to concentrate on the 8 engraving pictures of the Gold Beast God while temporarily giving up the other 56 engraving pictures. Based on his 100,000 years of trial and error, Luo Fong was most accurate when randomly combing the 8 engraving pictures of the Gold Beast God. After 1,000,000 years, Luo Fong started to understand the mysteries of the engraving pictures of the Gold Beast God. After 10 million years, he completely understood the mysteries and power of the combinations of those engraving pictures. Of course, it was only the tip of the iceberg compared to the engraving picture of I Am the Universe. But finally, Luo Fong completely comprehended it. During those 10 million years, Luo Fong accidentally created an ultimate technique for Universe Nights. Although he didn't understand the theories behind it, he remembered the way to perform it, just as he did with his inherited techniques. He memorized all the law threads and was able to perform it instantly, which was theoretically impossible. Law threads required users to understand the fundamentals of them in order to be performed unless they were sculpted in the mind, like inherited techniques. However, Luo Fong didn't need to perform all the law threads. All he needed to do was perform several engraving pictures and combine them. The implications were profound. Luo Fong found the engraving pictures to be mysterious. It might be a unique and unusual way, but it was a highway to the top. Did Master Sitting Mountain Guest know this before? He wondered. Is that why he led me into the Beast God sector? Why haven't I heard of anyone among us humans who has practiced it? Why have I never heard of this practice method? Luo Fong was sometimes baffled by these many questions. For what it's worth, it's an incredible practicing method. Engraving pictures were like components. If the universe was a skyscraper, the components were the individual resources combined to create the whole. And there were many ways to build a skyscraper. So far, Luo Fong had found 900 million ways to combine the engraving pictures, and he could perfectly manipulate more than 100,000 of them. It was a path that was completely new to him, so he could only explore it all by himself. The more he studied it, the more combinations he knew and manipulated. Luo Fong forgot about the passage of time. He was immersed in the engraving pictures of the Gold Beast God. Time flew by. 10 million years, followed by another 10 million years. Luo Fong frequently went to watch the beast god pictures of the gold beast god and studied them. At the peak of the tallest mountain in the beast god sector, Ancestor looked down, frowned. Luo Fong had been in the beast god sector for 180 million years, and Ancestor could tell from the way Luo Fong trained that he was following the path of engraving pictures, a path that led to the top. I might lose this time, thought Ancestor. Sitting mountain guest is indeed impressive, he said. He was aware of this way to practice, and he was certain that his disciple would succeed on that path. Ancestor also speculated that the disadvantage of that path was that it didn't have a strong foundation. However, if one was lucky enough to have inspirations, he could create terrifically powerful techniques. Ancestor's face became grave. No way. Ancestor was shocked as he looked down at a faraway spot. How is it possible that he could comprehend the heart of the beast? Asterisk 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 asterisk. Weeds grew all over the plain. There was a towering sculpture of a gigantic lizard positioned in a slight squat as though poised for takeoff. And at the back of the gold beast god sculpture, Luo Fong lay on a bed of scales, eyes squinting. He was looking in midair, where countless complicated gold threads of engravings flowed continuously. His hundreds of millions of years of painstaking cultivation were no different from one another. In fact, Luo Fong had fallen into a unique state. He'd spent hundreds of millions of years studying the 8 pictures of engravings of the gold beast god, where every picture of engravings represented a different aspect of the gold beast god. 8 pictures of engravings. Luo Fong felt as though he was looking at a different face of the gold beast god every day, and day after day, month after month, year after year. The years went by. Luo Fong went on studying these 8 pictures of engravings, and for a good many years, he felt as though he had the company of gold beast god every waking and sleeping moment of his life. Currently, Luo Fong had lost himself to the 180 million years spent on studying these pictures of engravings. He forgot who he was. Now, he felt as though he actually was a beast god. Joy, happiness, anger, rage, insanity. He was roaming the universe. He was fighting his enemies in bloody battles stretching to endless voids. The fighting extended to other galaxies, until finally, he unwillingly breathed his last. Luo Fong lay unmoving, his eyes gradually closing. Only the gold beast god was real. All else was fabricated. His sleep went on for a whole millennium. During this millennium, even Luo Fong's original earthling body and his remote ocean body went into a deep slumber. No matter who tried, no one at all was able to contact Luo Fong. Over the course of 1,000 years, Luo Fong forgot his human memories, he forgot everything. In his deep slumber, he thought of himself as a beast god. A millennium went by peacefully. Then Luo Fong opened his eyes. Is this the so-called transformation of things? Asked Luo Fong. Was it my illusion or was it reality? The moment he opened his eyes, he was in a trance, stupefied and unable to differentiate whether he was Luo Fong or a beast god. But quickly, he sobered up. Hundreds of millions of years' worth of human memories came flooding back and overrode the memories that he had collected while he was incarnated as the beast god. A beast god. What a magical feeling. Luo Fong lay on the back of the gold beast god sculpture, reminiscing about the feeling of being a beast god, which was still so vivid to him. He felt as though he could go back into that state easily. A beast god was an entirely different existence from that of humans. It was in a state that was detached, free, and true to its own nature. At the apex of the mountain, Ancestor watched the entire episode, shaking his head amidst sighs. He found it all so ironic. The final bottleneck of the beast god path, he said. Heart of beast god. The most difficult stage to comprehend and the most difficult to find, yet he has mastered it. The beast god path, according to the ancestral god school, was divided into a total of 7 major inheritances. Upon figuring out the entire beast god path, one would have attained the universe master level and become a pinnacle existence in the universe. Yet it was not that simple for one who wanted to become a universe master. Just as it was with the golden horned beast's lineage, after countless eras, they only had a total of 2 universe masters. Similarly, the flaming star beast's lineage had only 1 universe master. All of these clearly reiterated the fact that becoming a universe master was difficult to the point of nearly being impossible. There were many levels to accomplish. One of the Beast God path's most difficult levels to figure out, because of its ethereal nature, was understanding the heart of Beast God. Upon achieving this level, one could truly become an incarnation of the Beast God. This had left many universe overlords wondering, like Luo Duo and the many universe overlords, if they could only be incarnations of pseudo-beast gods because they were unable to understand the heart of Beast God. Without a heart of Beast God, there was no way one could truly become an incarnation of a beast god. For Luo Fong, this was an unintentional reward, as he spent such a long time wholeheartedly studying the 8 pictures of secret engravings. Tens of millions of years of dedicated work had led him into a deep slumber where he forgot everything. During his slumber, he dreamed about leading the life of a beast god for a long time. This Luo Fong made a resounding name of himself in less than 100,000 years, said Ancestor. In my beast god sector, he has cultivated himself for around 180 million years. He has dedicated himself wholly to studying the secret engravings of golden space. Without any guidance, solely based on his own experience, he has attained the highest level. At the tip of his fingers, he could create techniques at the universe night level. Obviously, he will have become extremely familiar with the gold beast god's 8 pictures of secret engravings. And these 8 pictures are the full representation of gold beast god. Moreover, thought Ancestor, golden horned beasts are descendants of the gold beast god. They can easily understand the heart of beast god. For two to merge as one, accomplishing this is expected. Ancestor quickly understood why it was the process of accumulating richly and breaking forth vastly. Luo Fong had waited patiently, so when he had everything he needed to know in place, he would achieve success. After all, Luo Fong did spend 180 million years studying these pictures of secret engravings. It only took him thousands of years to attain the pinnacle emperor level, tens of thousands of years to develop his talent of creating 3 forms of ultimate technique. If he continued to study the laws, given 180 million years, Luo Fong would have cultivated himself to the level of a senior universe knight. All just to defeat Ancestor. So, Luo Fong had not spent an inkling of effort on law comprehension. He gave his all to studying the pictures of secret engravings. Hence, he attained his achievements in this chosen studies, which far surpassed his achievements in law comprehension. After all, law comprehension required many tens of thousands of years to cultivate. Just studying the pictures of secret engravings, he spent 180 million years. That was simply incomparable. This is. Ancestor, who had calmed himself previously, suddenly revealed a sharp change in expression. He was unable to believe what he saw as he looked down at the beast god sculpture on the vast plain. Luo Fong was lying down on the sculpture. Even when he had previously comprehended the heart of the beast god, he had not shown such arrogance and rudeness. On the back of the beast god sculpture. After Luo Fong woke from a millennium of deep slumber, he started to study the 8 pictures of engravings of the gold beast god all over again. With the picture of secret engravings of his miniature universe as the final template, he tried to create a technique of his own. He could still feel the aftermath of his 1,000 years of slumber, during which the heart of beast god possessed an indistinct influence over him. Countless golden threads floated mid-air. It should be like this, he said. Yes. Like this. It must be by pure luck or coincidence, as Luo Fong himself was unclear of the underlying theories he used when he speedily combined all 8 pictures of secret engravings. Other than the majority of the law threads being combined based on his strong foundation, there were a few law threads that were combined purely based on his unique instincts, where he was free of inhibitions and followed his heart's desire without a second thought. It was as though the gold beast god was wandering about the universe, following its heart, killing when it wanted to kill, eating when it wanted to eat, sleeping when it wanted to sleep. When it came to the method of combining the law threads he was still unsure of, he combined them with such an attitude, following his heart. The most important thing was to feel pleased and fulfilled in the moment. Suddenly, a golden ray appeared. The golden ray sliced through heaven and earth in the blink of an eye. The frozen space was forcefully pried apart to reveal a ripple gully. Even the ground, under the resonating waves of the light ray, was cut apart to give way to a deep valley tens of millions of miles long. In an instant, the whole surface underwent a fundamental change. Then normality returned. I am left with such little godly power, said Luo Fong. He was dumbfounded as he sat on the back of the gold beast god sculpture. He gazed at the end of the vast land, at the deep valley, until everything returned to normal. What level of technique was that? Luo Fong could not believe he was so powerful. A few thousand years on law comprehension was enough for him to attain pinnacle undying level. If these 180 million years were spent devoted completely to studying law comprehension, for him to master the 6th, or even to the 7th stage of the beast god path was certainly achievable. Yet he had spent this long period of time studying only the pictures of secret engravings. He was certainly successful, and now he could easily create techniques at the universe night level, or, at times, he might even be able to create ultimate techniques at the universe overlord level. He was that powerful. Yet in terms of magnitude, his power was far less than that of the light ray. Could it be the ultimate technique of a universe master? Luo Fong still found it unbelievable. If he had not been mastering it, he would not have known. After all the studies on the pictures of secret engravings, he knew that while sometimes, with a stroke of luck, the pictures of secret engravings could allow one to miraculously create a set of technique. But the more powerful a technique was, the more it was impossible to depend solely on luck. Foundation was more important. 180 million years. Luo Fong was very accomplished in his studies of the pictures of secret engravings and could easily create techniques that were at the universe night level. But the most powerful technique that he had created so far was merely the universe overlord ultimate technique, which was 2 levels higher than the ones he normally created. If he wanted to create a technique of a universe master level, he guessed he might need many hundreds of millions of years more. If the day came when he could readily create techniques of universe overlord level however he pleased, then who knew? He might get lucky and happen to create a technique of the universe master level. The foundation required would be higher. The most talented painter, with a stroke of inspiration, could paint a superior picture. But without a solid foundation, even with inspiration, one would not be able to produce a sensational piece of work. Luo Fong had now built a very strong foundation for himself. As an individual in the context of the universe, he could be considered a master, a founder capable of creating techniques. However, if he was expected to create techniques of universe master level, then to him, it was still something unbelievable. Is it a technique of the universe master level? Luo Fong jumped up from where he was and flew to a faraway spot on the mountain. On his shoulder was a golden horned beast. After flying for a short while, he arrived at the mountain cliff where there were 3 technique sculptures, all of which had been left behind by Space Beast Universe Masters. These 3 were all techniques of the Universe Master level. I shall carve the engravings of my creation with the use of my power. I should be able to understand it. Luo Fong looked at the stone surface. Godly power was gushing out, and all he could see at that very moment was a huge picture of a technique that was complicated beyond comprehension. Even many universe knights would have felt as though they were reading a heavenly book. Even if Luo Fong were to spend 180 million years, he would still be unable to comprehend this. This picture of technique was simply too deep to be fathomed. It exuded an endless wave of power that corresponded to the magnitude of power coming from the other 3 ultimate technique sculptures beside it. It was not the least bit weaker. It represented hundreds of millions of years of hard work, plus a heart of beast god. At any moment, Luo Fong spontaneously created such a technique. This was a technique he had created with the picture of secret engravings of his miniature universe as a template. It might be considered a simplified version of it. It was simply a near-perfect combination of the 8 beast god pictures of the gold beast god that formed the attack type technique, ultimate level technique of Universe Master. At the apex of the mountain, Ancestor watched. Tens of millions of years spent on experiencing, learning and creating, he muttered. And the heart of beast god. If at any point in time, the 8 pictures of secret engravings of the gold beast god are almost perfectly combined, whether in a manner that makes sense or not, such a technique will emerge. At that moment, he transmitted a message to sitting mountain guest who was in the primal universe. Sitting Mountain guest, he said. Why are you still not on your way here? This video will end here.